Welcome back, everyone. A live look at Boston, Massachusetts this morning. Cheers was one of my favorite shows there in Boston. Anyway, we'll get you back there momentarily, but first, let's shift our focus overseas. Over the weekend, Russia launched its biggest strike in months. We're talking 595 drones, 48 missiles. Civilian areas were hit, including a kindergarten and a medical center. And this was from Kiev over to Odessa. Children were killed here, homes destroyed, and black smoke was really seen across both cities' skylines. President Trump calling it terrorism. Matt Whitaker, the U.S. representative to NATO, joining me now to discuss. Matt, I want to start the conversation here. I'm curious what the appetite is within NATO to take a harder stance on Russia. It seems from the outside looking in, and I want to be clear, from the outside looking in, that there have been sanctions and people have tried diplomacy, but diplomacy doesn't seem to be working with Russia anymore.
Yeah, well, it's good to be with you today. I think first of all, we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to put as much pressure on Russia to end this war. I mean, I think J.D. Vance, vice president, was pretty clear about that over the weekend. We need to continue to pursue peace. The time is now for a peace deal. But, the Russians also have to wake up and accept reality, to J.D.'s point. That there have a lot of Russians dying on the battlefield in Ukraine, and they don't have a lot to show for it. So we need to continue to ramp up the pressure. Here at NATO, obviously, we have the prioritized Ukraine requirements list, where President Trump smartly set up a system where our NATO allies could buy the best weapons in the world, which are U.S. weapons, and then provide those to Ukraine to use on the battlefield. Ukraine wants and needs those weapons and ammunition, and so we're going to continue to facilitate and coordinate that. And that, those are flowing right now to Ukraine. So I think we need to make sure that Ukraine can defend itself, and at the same time, we put more pressure on Russia to end this war. It's almost 4 years. It needs to end.
From a U.S. perspective, do our NATO partners need to take an even harder line in defending themselves and helping to defend Ukraine? And I say that in light of what President Trump always says is that, look, this is happening on your shore. There's an ocean that separates the United States and the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's on your continent.
Well, there's no doubt that our European allies, together with Canada, need to step up, and they are stepping up. They agreed at The Hague, which was the summit this year, the 76th summit that we've had in NATO history since it was formed in 1949. And at the summit, they agreed to spend 5% of their GDP on defense and defense-related matters. And we're operationalizing that. We're seeing a response to these air incursions. We've scrambled fighter jets, oftentimes F-35s that are proven to time and time again to be very successful, not only against drones, but also against, Russian fighter jets. In each case, NATO has responded. We've responded consistent with our doctrines, and we've responded strong. And I think a lot of that's been led by our European allies that are proving that they can step up. So we're going to keep doing everything we're doing here, making NATO stronger, and that strength will ensure the peace. But we are a defensive alliance, and so we need to make sure that we continue to defend every single inch of NATO territory.
Ambassador Whitaker, just in 30 seconds, we're hearing from the Kremlin that Vladimir Putin wants to meet with President Trump again. Is there really anything to be gained from another meeting, particularly in advance of Putin conceivably meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky?
Yeah, ultimately, that's going to be up to President Trump, but I would expect he would say, unless you're willing to make a peace deal, there's no reason to meet. If you want to keep fighting and dying. It was funny for me, the Kremlin had to spend an entire day trying to convince the world that they were actually a bear once President Trump called them a paper tiger. I don't think most of the world is convinced, but at the same time, we need peace. This war has been going on long enough. It is time to end. There is a acceptable peace deal on the table for Russia to accept if they would just agree to it. And so I think President Trump has decided most likely the time for talk is over, and there's no need to meet unless you want to meet about getting a deal done today. So we'll see how that goes. We'll pray for peace, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to definitely pray for peace. Ambassador, always good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for being here with us.
All right, good to see you again. Thank you.
All right, you as well. Bye-bye. All right, folks, let's send things over to Emily now for our moment of faith.
God bless the USA.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
We're following this developing story, a devastating attack at a Latter-day Saints church in Grand Blanc Township, Michigan. The suspect now identified. Police say 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford, a former U.S. Marine, drove his truck into the church during Sunday service, then opened fire, then set the building on fire. 4 people are dead and 8 are hurt. Officers killed Sanford after an exchange of gunfire. FBI and federal agents are now involved searching the scene and Sanford's property. No motive has been released, but police say neighboring churches have been alerted as a precaution. Local leaders are calling for prayer, peace, and support for the victims' families at this time. We will continue to keep you updated as investigators release more details. Still ahead on American Sunrise, we will be right back with more. Stick around.